Hi, I'm Jennifer Janish, owner of Adored Salon and Adored Signature Hand-Tied Hair Extensions. I'm obsessed with curly hair. I cut it, style it, and extend it, and this podcast is all about my curly girl obsessions that stretch far beyond just curly hair. Hey, it's me, Jennifer, from the Curly Girls Obsessions, Adored Salon, Adored Signature Hand Tied Hair, and the Curl Tour, the education from Adored Signature Hand Tied Hair. And today I am coming to you from my hair salon, only fitting because on here today I have someone who I really gained so much knowledge from a class that I took from her starting last year in 2024 at a pivotal moment in my salon. We were switching the way that we charged for services. We were raising our prices. And one of the goals that I set for myself in 2024 was to become insanely organized in all of my businesses in 2025. And taking her class catapulted that for me. I'm going to have Kate introduce herself, and then we're going to get into the goods of all the stuff that she has to offer in her class. If you listen to last week's podcast, you're going to hear about all the things that I implemented in my salon before her class and then after her class. I talk about a lot of different things on learning really and truly how to get to the bottom of my numbers, which, as you're going to hear today, in a salon atmosphere, it's not always the easiest thing to do because of past, what do we call it, like social norms within a hair salon. Um, and we're just going to dive deep into it. Kate's here, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. And from there, we're going to talk all things about salon numbers and what she did to become the educator that she is today. So, Kate, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. I'm so happy to hear that. My name is Kate. I'm located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, born and raised. I am a commissioned salon owner as well as a salon mentor and coach. I have owned two salons, and last year I sold one of them, which was really exciting and a pivotal moment in my personal business and my business life. Um, and what I started coaching and working and mentoring salon owners like 3.5 to 4 years ago. It started really, really organically, just with some people contacting me, asking me, how do you do things? Can I come shadow your salon for a day? What are you doing about this? And honestly, like I didn't even know it. Opening up my second business with a business partner was actually me entering like the salon coaching world because I had business experience. I had owned one location before, but she hadn't, even though she was a phenomenal lash artist. She was more independent. So we collaborated. I had all of the background with how I run my business. And she had the skill set. So I didn't know it then, but looking back, like that was me mentoring, right? And taking that salon to six figures, multiple six figures, and profitability within, geez, 6 months. Like that was because of the systems and because of what I'd already learned from salon number one, which we went through a lot of trials and tribulations, as you can only imagine. So I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. And yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on because last week's podcast, I discuss like in depth why I did what I did, why I transitioned. What my commission salon did was, well, what I wanted to implement was parts and labor, but still under the commission, like we are a full-fledged commission salon. And
Mm.
the reason I wanted to move into parts and labor was because I was like, two plus two in my mind equals four, but somehow I'm at 2.5. Like it's never equaling actually four. And so from that podcast, I discuss like raising prices. I discuss this implementation of this new system, which isn't widely used within the industry either. Um, but I also felt like if I didn't start doing that, I never was really going to learn how much my salon was spending on parts. Like I knew from the receipts, I knew from everything I was doing, but it just never equaled out, right? And I just wanted to see like I wanted to see this column is what these parts have cost. This is what the commission pay is. This is what the salon has brought in. This is what your expenses are. And honestly, I hate spreadsheets. I shouldn't say I hate them. I should say I hated them until I sat in your class and your spreadsheet looked pretty. Then it literally, as crazy as that sounds, and I would think that a lot of salon owners or suite owners would say that there needs to be something driving behind them. Like, yes, you want to get organized. Yes, you want to do all the things. But a spreadsheet was so daunting to me, and you made it so easy. Is there more that you could say about that? Like, how did your brain go from artist to business owner? Because I think that that's a huge, like there's such a lack or a big divide, right? We're all like, we're artists, we are creative in the salon industry, but then when you're a salon um provider, you're a service provider behind the chair, or you're doing nails, or you're doing lashes, it's really hard to go to that business aspect. You made that transition so easy. I've been a salon owner for 12 years, but understanding your whole philosophy was so much easier because you made, number one, you're very good at educating. Number two, you made the spreadsheets look good. So, like, if you could say, how did you start your classes? How did your brain become wired this way?
So similarly to you, and what I want to congratulate you on is you kept hitting a wall. Like you felt something was wrong and you tried something new. Because guess what? Moving to parts and labor is scary, right?
It was very, like, I wanted to do it 2 years ago.
It's
And
kind of, it's new. You have to explain it to your clientele. You have to get them on board. You have to explain it to your employees. You have to get them on board. And it also can change the way people are compensated. So that is a huge and a really important conversation. So like kudos to you for doing the work and making those big moves in your business because it works. Like with it, I own a spa and then I used to own a nail salon. So unfortunately, like, we don't have something like salon scale telling us how many like nail polish, how many layers
how
of
many
nail polish
drops?
can do, right? Like how many little licks of a lollipop, right? But so I look at things on a bigger picture, which you learned in the Beauty on a Budget program. But I was also at a very pivotal moment in my business whenever I had to look at my numbers. I ignored them. I hired a bookkeeper. She was expensive. She did her job. I also had an accountant and they worked together. They both did their jobs, but I didn't do mine. And I think that's what so many of us do not realize. Like we can't, it was just like hiring an assistant and just saying, well, whatever she does, if she messes up the hair, the skincare, the lashes, it's not my fault. It is your fault because you hired the assistant, right? So it's the same deal. Like we have to be very educated and at least well versed in our business to understand why things are happening. And that's what I totally ignored for the first year of my business until I ran payroll. I'll never forget the day, and I didn't have enough money to pay myself. Right? But we were seeing more money than ever. I've never, we went from doing 6,000 a month and we were quadrupling that, right? And prior to opening my business, I did the simple math that I think every single one of us do. Okay, cool. I can bring in like 8 grand behind the chair. So if I have 4 employees, wow, they'll all bring in 8 grand. I'll make 3 times as much as I do now, and we're all going to be winning. But it's a really big, it's really scary whenever you realize that's not the case. So that was my pivoting moment because my bookkeeper wasn't able to tell me. All she was doing was organizing where my money was going, but I was not reading the reports. I honestly, they weren't pretty enough for me to understand, and no one taught me how to understand them. So it took me diving into my numbers for about a month, figuring out like how to just track my expenses. And I realized I was spending a heck of a lot more than we were making. And the way we spend money in our business is actually really important because, for example, I ran payroll today and my rent comes out tomorrow. Like that's huge for every single one of us because we don't have a lot of cash flow in our businesses. That's natural, right? We run on like probably anywhere from a 5, 10, or 15% profit margin. And if you're maintaining that every single week, which most of us don't, yeah, that could affect us, right? We run rent tomorrow and credit card fees also in my business come out the first week of the month. So like, what do we do about that? That's why we feel like we have no money. And then we have more money. So we pay off credit card bills. We pay for more things. We get education. So there's no organization behind it. We can feel really lost. Um, I
I
had,
think I think too, like I agree. I thought I was so organized because I had an accountant doing my books every month. And I remember sitting in the class is broken up into, well, the class that I was in was broken up into 2 days, a week apart. And sitting in the first class, and I'm like, oh, this will be easy. I'm just going to go get all my profit and loss statements and I'm just going to enter this stuff in. And I felt like too, this was kind of interesting. I kind of felt like I was ahead of the rest of the people in the class because a lot of people didn't even have an accountant, right? Or didn't even have profit and loss statements. And then I went to my profit and loss statements, which you know, owning a business for 12 years, good or bad, wrong or right, like, okay, great. Here's the profit and loss statement. I'm just going to file it away with everything that I file away in this file box because, my accountant did not say anything to me. And sometimes people would be like, oh, well, how much do you budget for this? And I'm like, oh, that's right here. Like, I know what I'm budgeting for that. And so when I went to your spreadsheet with my profit and loss statements, I'm like, oh, it's not going to work. Like, I need to get into the nitty gritty. And I also thought that I was already in the nitty gritty because I do my QuickBooks and I enter in line by line everything. But there is something to be said about the way that your spreadsheet is set up with those specific columns. Like, okay, this is what you're purchasing. Your This column is for your color. This column is for your payroll, and you break it apart. Commission, salon owner pay. This is for, you know, your expenses and like very your repeating expenses. And then there was even more, right? My profit and loss statement does not go into depth like I needed to go into it. So it was so interesting the realizations that I started having in those categories and just understanding like the apple.com bill, like you're like, oh, because so much of apple.com is used in my business as a business, right? Canva, um, the picture editing apps and all these things. I'm thinking that's all that's in my apple.com. Absolutely not. Like really breaking that apart and then going in my phone and finding out what actually, because honestly, before I probably just really didn't even care until I had to make it a line item in your spreadsheet. I was like, okay, why do I have 8 apple.coms in 2 weeks? What does this even mean?
Mhm.
And so, like, breaking it down, breaking it apart, it just brought to my eyes, and how many times do you find this too with salon owners? Like we say we want to get organized or business owners in general. And did this even happen to you? Like you wanted to know, but you really didn't want to know? Like you were like, oh, I can look at this, but I could look over here very easily too and look away. Like putting it down and making sure that I understood every little thing, like I'm almost getting PTSD for the first time that I actually did that on that spreadsheet because it was so unbelievably eye-opening to me.
Yeah, and that's the first biggest win that's the salon owners who take beauty on a budget hit. I mean, honestly, if I've seen salon owners that I work with make more money just from doing that one section. They're not even budgeting, right? They're not even like paying attention to how much they spend next week. All they're doing is paying attention to how much they spend in general. And once they start paying attention, they naturally start spending less because it's working
Yeah.
for them. So like just by doing that, salon owners like, oh my God, I got to pay myself last week. I gave myself an extra $500. Why? Because I actually am tracking my spending. We're not even talking about cutting any expenses or paying attention to like what we're spending on back bar and inventory. But that's a huge win in itself.
It is. Is there anything more? Because I feel like just opening the door to parts and labor to service providers is kind of like a big aha. You said that like in the nail industry, you really couldn't do that. In the lash industry, I don't know if they do that and if it's possible to do that. Well, no, because you don't have salon scale or Vish. I'm I use Vish is what ours is. Um, is there anything that you could speak to about opening up to parts and labors, why it would be beneficial to a salon owner? Or is it basically just you're really getting to the nuts? You're getting to the absolute bottom line of the numbers, and that's how it becomes super beneficial.
So if you don't do parts and labor, you can still be ahead. You can still win. And that's what this spreadsheet helps you understand. It helps you understand as a whole, like let's not look at it per service. Let's look at it per week or per month. Out of all of the money that we're bringing in, how much are we spending on parts, on color, on shampoo, on conditioner, not retail, right? Just what we spend the money on doing a hair service. So if we back up, we can see, okay, we're spending 20%, which is very, very high. And a lot of salons, especially whenever they hit that $1 million mark, start spending about 20%. And they say, where's all my money going? Because whenever they were bringing in 500 a year, it was lower. More services, more people, more clients, more employees, it gets exacerbated. So if we actually just control on a big picture, like you can still win, you can still get ahead. But where parts and labor really helps is it actually divides it by saying we're going to multiply the cost of doing service by 100%, by 150%, by 200%. And it really gives us it gives us the opportunity to see if number one, how much are we spending actually doing the service? And number two, how much we want to make on that particular item, on the color, on the shampoo. And it's really beautiful because you see it happening in real time. Whereas in my spreadsheet, it's kind of like an after the fact.
Yeah. The other thing too that this is so 2 years ago was we also implemented. So this is why we didn't do parts and labor 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we implemented deposits for every single appointment. We had been taking them for hair extensions, but at the where my salon was at that time was like on the COVID rebuilds. I had newer stylists who were experiencing cancellations at the last minute or no shows. And so, and all we're a curly specialized salon. So the majority of our services take over an hour, right? And so when you have a cancellation, that's a 2 hour chunk of your day. It's kind of hard, right? So we implemented deposits. Again, that was crazy scary, right? Because it was different from the norm. It was acceptable with hair extensions, but then we had clients who were like, okay, I never had to do this. I'm always there. I'm this, I'm that. Just there was pushback on it. But then once it was in full swing, all of a sudden, as a salon owner, I was like, okay, this is amazing because you talked about that 5% margin. All of a sudden, you went from, yes, going to the beauty supply store, putting it on your credit card to going to the beauty supply store using your debit card because it was available. And so you weren't having that opportunity to potentially pay interest, or there just was so much more fluid cash within the business, good or bad, right? It just the I think it was good. And the only downfall was maybe the pushback from the clients who didn't want to do it, but it was kind of like, this is what you're doing in order to come in here to get an appointment. And our appointments are a lot longer. And so maybe it was 2% pushback on that deposit. And then it was all of a sudden, it was totally fine. Um, I have to say that that was probably also like such an eye-opening experience. And also at that time, restaurants started taking deposits because, you got to understand, like, yeah, they're fronting the money for a ton of food that could potentially go bad if a party of how many ever doesn't show up or something. And maybe that's getting a little bit off course, but I got to say, like, that was a really good, it was really nice as a salon owner to be able to rely on the fact that on a Saturday after hours, Sunday in the morning, we also do online booking. That it was just going to fluidly be coming in there. There was never going to be like a dead cell of like credit card deposits coming in, because if you don't do online booking and you're closed Sunday, Monday, right? It's like a 4-day lag before everything comes through. And to your point too about the payroll, and then the credit card fees, and then the rent, right? I'm the same. It all hits me like this week. We just ran payroll. That'll hit April 2nd. Rent is due April 1st and April 4th. All the credit card fees will be removed from my account too. Like, when you see that dollar amount come out, it's like, uh, uh, shocking. Even though you know it's going to happen, it's just one of those things that how do you prepare for this? How do you make it happen without feeling like you are losing your pants? And I got to say that those deposits helped to keep that fluid cash in there, helped to keep things moving smoothly, more so than before. Because if you would have a slow week before, and it happens, I mean, it's just the salon industry. It's spring break here, people go on vacation. It will be quieter this week than it would have been last week when everybody was getting ready. And people say, save for a rainy day. Yes, you do it, but I feel like there again, going back to your class and having that whole learning experience about why, where, when brings it, you know, pretty forward and into the forefront of your brain. Now I've talked and talked and talked. And did you hear anything out from what I said that you might want to comment on before I ask you another question?
Yeah, deposits are great for cash flow, right? It's people giving you money, paying for a portion of their business, of your business prior to their appointment. And like I just mentioned, cash flow is hard. It's hard to create in the salon industry if you're not profiting off of every service. So love that. That's awesome. There's going to be pushback no matter what. Deposit, cancellation fee, no cancellation fee, get pushback from your employees. There's always pushback, right? So
Always.
you have to do whatever you feel good about. If you don't feel good about doing it, then you're not going to communicate it with your clients. You're not going to communicate it with your staff, and no one's going to get on board. So I love that that's working for you, and that's why it's working for you. Everyone's on board. What was the second part of that?
I how oh, it was the fact that April 2nd is like when payroll comes. Credit card fees will be April 4th. April 1st is rent. The other thing that's in there too is my Amex payment is also due then too.
Ah,
And as much as I don't like to use a credit card, there are certain things that are on Amex, so it's like literally this first week of the month is one of those really big, like, whoop.
mhm. Yeah, and in the spreadsheet also at the top, it says you can separate your income, which is really eye-opening too. So for you, like absolutely having a deposit section. So you can see how many deposits you've received versus how many actual like service sales. Obviously the deposits are a portion of the service sales, but that's really cool too. Salon owners, some take cash, some don't claim their cash. Not here to have a conversation about that, but it's really cool whenever like, okay, $3,000 of your business is just is cash, which whatever, you don't claim it. That's something, you did talk to you about.
I feel like we should talk about that really quick if you're
Okay.
comfortable with it, because I was also kind of surprised. Like and I get, well, no man, at the end of the day, it's kind of one of those things like, if you really want to know your numbers, you gotta, you just gotta be on board with the fact that cash is part of your numbers.
Yeah, and it's working. It works. Like if it's working for you, amazing. I'm not the IRS. I'm not going to audit.
Yeah.
I don't care if you report your income, don't report your income, girl, you do you, right? I'm going to keep my slate clean, but I do know that whenever I sold my business last year, if I would have taken any cash under the table, I would have sold my business for a lot less money.
Less.
And I'm talking salons that I'm working with that are bringing in $5,000 to $6,000 a month in cash, and they're not recording it. They're just putting it in their pockets. The owner's walking around with 5K cash, and that's a portion of how she pays herself. Awesome. You're not taxed on it. I hate paying taxes, right? But if you decide to turn, if you decide to sell your business one day, that is upwards of 60 grand that you cannot say your business made.
And to the fact of like, you, I mean, getting a car, getting, all the things. I just feel like when I run my reports, I want to know everything under the sun. And to your point, right, whatever somebody else wants to do, totally fine. But I just personally, I'm like, you're at the end of the day, it's harder to figure out how to manage something that it's like your secret than it is to just be upfront. And because what is the tax on $5,000 or $6,000? $50?
Right. Like it depends if you're an corp, if you're an LLC, right? So like now we get into the nitty gritty, but it's interesting because salon owners who I work with who say, oh, well, Kate, every time we hit cash, I just like put it in my pocket. Whenever we're looking at the budget, what I say is like, this tells us a piece of the picture, but it doesn't tell us all of it because whenever I ask you, like, Jennifer, how much cash did you guys take? She goes, I don't know. So then what happens is naturally they're just like, okay, I'm gonna start putting everything through because I want to see this. So it's really,
Yeah.
people start budgeting, people start using the spreadsheet, realize that we're not skilled enough to make a secret and keep track of the secret.
Right.
We can barely keep track of the things that aren't a secret.
Well, and I feel like especially that secret because it's so easy to just get rid of it without even knowing it.
Right.
And like keeping your reports, I think the biggest moment for me 12 years ago was like, you're running your reports for everybody in the salon, and everybody in the salon really wants to know all of their numbers. They want to know how many clients they have. They want to know what their service dollars are. I wanted to know what the salon was actually producing. And I felt like the only way that was going to happen if it was all on the table. And thank God my accountant is so conservative and really like I could not live or run this business without him because he is so good at keeping all of me honest, right? And I'm not that I'm a dishonest person, but it just like he's like, okay, how much did you make in tips this year? And even with our tips, like if they come through on the credit card, they're run through a paycheck because we're not just giving cash out of the drawer, right? And that's a whole nother scenario too that people get tripped up on. I heard somewhere that like if the tip comes through on the credit card, and maybe you could enlighten me on this, is it seen like as salon income? So then the salon is taxed on that amount, and then you're also taxed as income, and then you're taxed when you're taxed.
No, if it's recorded as a tip, it should not be recorded.
It's
I didn't, it should, if it's recorded as a tip, which it should be, unless you're just like changing the service from $100 to $120, right? Which you wouldn't want to do. If it's recorded as a tip, the salon should not pay like a sales tax on it because I didn't make a sale. Someone else got a tip.
Did it. Okay. So then it's all correct. So what I saw on social media was not correct. um, the other thing that I found too, because like I said, your spreadsheet just made me so hyper aware. There was one week when I downloaded the ticket summary, and normally I would change it to a PDF. And I just liked the way that it looked better. And something was going on with my computer. I couldn't convert it over. And the particular report that I downloaded showed me off of it had to be this basic in order for me to learn this, but it was mind blowing to me. So it was on a $5 tip for one of the assistants. And so obviously there's the service dollars, like in our payroll, there's service dollars, there's a section for tips, there's a section for bonuses, and a section for hourly. And so on this report, it showed me this $5 tip, but then it also showed me what the credit card company took, which was like $1.79. So what did that leave me with? $3.31, but I was paying out $5 on this tip always. And we do extensions here, and sometimes these tips will be five, six, $700 that are run through on the credit card. My mind was like blown. And then there was another $5 tip for a different assistant that had $1.49 removed from it. And I was like, the credit card company's algorithm is worse than social media's because it depends on the time of day, the amount of transactions that are being run through. So, like, nobody can understand this whole situation of the credit cards and what they're actually charging you because it's so convoluted. It's like trying to figure out the Instagram algorithm. I was just like, okay, now what? I Here's also another scenario in which the salon has been losing money hand over fist because we take deposits, so the credit card is already preloaded in there. Most people just check out with the card that's on file. So now the it's the percentages off the service, off the retail, but then also on the tips. But then it's like, then your brain as an owner starts really going crazy because it's W-2 employees. So then you're paying this extra tax on top of it. So, like with that one $5 tip, I'm like, holy crap, by the end of this, it has cost me a little bit more than $2 to have this tip be run out for five that I'm getting $3 for. Like, it was so shocking to me. And I was like, is this where the 2 plus 2 is not equaling 4? The 2 plus 2 is equaling 2.5, along with all these hidden other fees that were in there. That now, like, I was just, my mind was exploding, right? Because I was like, how do we fix this? And what we did implement across the board is we call it a 3% convenience fee. Um, and if someone wants to leave a tip on the card, we call it a 5% convenience fee because we have to recoup those costs somehow. And that has also helped as a salon owner. Again, there has been pushback on that. There's nothing I could do about it, but again, I kind of had to put my foot down. Like, I can't keep paying for all of these things to happen, which should, there's been like, it should be part of doing business. It should be that. Like, it's just, there's so many hidden fees. That's my point, is that, again, back to that spreadsheet, was just, as the salon owner, you needed to open up the door in order to see it all. And your spreadsheet made it possible. And that PDF that I saw, but I don't think I I've had to have seen it before, but I don't think I was as aware of it until I took your class, is where I'm really getting at here.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it makes you make business decisions based on data, not just feelings, right?
Right.
You were able to
Yep.
see it, and then you chose to do the credit card fee. You chose to do two different options of credit card fees. That's very detailed instead of just saying, I'm going to do a credit card fee. Cross my fingers. I hope it helps.
Well, and if it, crazy enough, in the beginning, that we were like, okay, we're just going to do a $5 service fee, right? There, it's like it seems to be customary in a lot of like nail salons and you know brow places and stuff like that. And then when I saw that example, I was like, $5 is nothing. It literally had to be a percentage. And I didn't do it because I was like being greedy or anything. And that is, I think, the hard part as the salon owner is that emotion comes in. You know, all these people for so long, and they're like, well, I hate being nickel and dime like this. And I'm like, here's the thing. If it's in the service, it's going to be double because of the way that the split happens on the commission side of everything. And so there's really, again, no way of knowing it unless it's all separated.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What's the biggest mistake that you think salon owners make through what you've witnessed with your classes?
Not even, yeah, I mean, let's see. I think the biggest mistake that pretty much every one of us make, me included, is that we don't do our homework before we open our salon. We open our salons as service providers. We have this very small mindset, thinking just what I mentioned at the beginning of the chat. Like, I do 10 grand a month. I'll have four employees. They'll all do 10 grand a month, and I'll make, 20 grand a month. Whenever the most, like, I see and talk to so many independents who do make 10 grand a month, and whenever they go to open a salon, they can barely get a paycheck. It's because we spend so much time caring about what our salon looks like, how we're going to feel about our salon, what we want our employees to feel like, how we feel like paying commission, what feels good, right? How we feel
Isn't
like charging, whenever that does not matter. And I did the same thing. I spent months and months deciding what kind of wallpaper I'm gonna have and try to get pink chairs or purple chairs or black chairs. What's my vibe? What's my feel? And it does not matter. It does not matter. Like, I'd rather have your salon look less sexy, but you get a paycheck. And the sad thing is, like, we're a year in, we're a year and a half in, we get burnt out, we're overworked, we're underpaid, and all of a sudden we start resenting our business. We start resenting our salon industry, we start resenting our clientele, whenever the only person that you have to, I don't want to say resent, but blame is us, And I was in it.
Mhm.
I couldn't get a paycheck. I had that same night, I was going to some entrepreneurial event, had to shake hands, like, I'm the owner of Manicure, right? I cried on the way there. Like, what am I gonna do? It was embarrassing. I was embarrassed for myself. I was embarrassed to cut checks to my employees from, geez, I wasn't getting anything and they were getting more than I was, right? So that was embarrassing. Like, it took my ego and it wiped it across the floor. So I think,
Well, and it's um it is, any business is hard, right? Anything that we care about is, anything that's worthwhile is hard work because we put our all into it. It's not that it's hard, right? It's just the things that we put in the forefront, the priority. And to your point, right? Like, same. I thought about all the things in here. I redecorated this place like 3 times in 4 years. And you do put a lot of emphasis on the vibe because in a female world, which is not that the beauty industry is strictly female, but it's run by a lot of females who typically do deal emotionally versus logically, right? Like the emotion definitely comes first, and we place the word feeling on so many things that we can get clouded with the business aspect of it. And there again, like, you did a very good job portraying how this is how this is done before this can happen, right? This, in order to sell your salon, um, that is one of the things that as a salon owner, I think so many people will feel defeated on because it doesn't happen often.
Mm-mm.
Not many people can sell their salons because of all the things that we've talked about, right? It's just not out there on the table. The salon owners weren't paid properly to see the value within it. Um, what is outside of the biggest mistake? So I know this question can kind of overlap. What's the one thing that you would want salon owners to know and take away from this conversation or your class? What would be one of the biggest things that you could see changing the industry? Like separate from the mistake, right? Because obviously the mistake is one of the things too that is part of the problem. What is it that you feel, I guess if I worded it better, like your class could do for them?
And I've seen it so often whenever students that I work with are taking my class, whether it be the beauty on the budget or working with me one-on-one in the lead method. And it's the awareness that they get. They have never, number one, had to write down their numbers on paper and give to another person to look at, right? It's all usually the opposite of your accountant giving you this stuff. We throw it in the back and we don't worry about it, but they have to show up for themselves and then for me. And I've looked people in the eyes and said, this is why you can't make any money. I've looked people in the eyes and said, your business spent $4,000 more than it even made last month. Like if things keep going this way, we're gonna have to make some big decisions, right? You might have to let people go. Like you can't afford some of these things. And it's conversations like that that make the change.
How many people, because like just you saying that, because I did my numbers on my own, right? I didn't physically have to give them to you to show them, but you gave good guidelines on there, right? This should be less than this. This should be less than this, blah, blah, blah. How many people are shameful, like feel like, and not that you would make them feel shameful, but like it, just like I said in the beginning, like getting down to the nuts and bolts, like I didn't even want to know what those numbers were would tell me. What percentage of people do you think feel a little bit shameful about the package they're delivering for you to inspect? Nervous or shameful? Either way.
Half of them feel excited. Half of them start working with me because they want to learn their numbers. Like, let's get into it, Kate. What do I do first? And the other half, it definitely takes baby steps. That's why we usually don't start with our budgeting. We start with pricing. We start with how we pay. We start with our leadership roles, right? How we structure our business. So I get to warm them up a little bit, you know. So by
That's
the
good.
time we get to the budget portion, they're like, okay, I'm ready for this. I've done so much work. Now I'm ready to understand how my business can actually survive. Um, so yeah.
This has been so good. I'm so grateful that you came on and talked. I know I'll be watching out for more things in the future. I'm past the shameful part. I'm past the PTSD of entering in the numbers. Um, and I just really enjoyed that class that I took with you. So if you could tell everybody where they could find you, how do they sign up? What's the process?
Yeah, it's super easy. Head to the link in my bio. You can jump to my website, or it says the Beauty on a Budget course. And you can sign up right there. As soon as you enroll, you get access to two short-ish videos. You get the spreadsheets. They're all plug and play, and you get the directions on how to customize your own budget. Learn how to pay yourself, learn how to save for taxes, and learn how much your business should actually cost. You get lifetime access to the Facebook group. So people are asking me questions almost every month saying, Kate, can you look over this? Kate, what do I do about this? And you can always add on one more, you can always add on more one-on-one support if you need to.
And what's your Instagram handle?
Salon Nerd.
And what's the name of your website?
Salonnerd.co.
Okay, so sometimes they can be different. So I wanted to make sure that there was clarity there. Something I said too that is actually kind of funny because I got a recap on this. I just was thinking about this. The taxes on $5,000, I think I said $50. I know they're not $50 on $5,000. I was like, that was kind of like off. Your math there was kind of off. Okay, yes, let's move past that. Um, Thanks again, Kate. I totally appreciate you being on. I hope that a lot of people who watch this sign up for your course, because definitely it was enlightening to me. And did we cover everything that you would want us to cover?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please write a review, subscribe, follow all the things, share it with someone who needs to hear it, someone who owns a salon suite and they're on their own, or someone who owns a hair salon or a salon of any sort, right? It is a great class to take. It's very eye-opening. And yeah, I hope to see you next week. You can follow me at Jennifer_Johnson_Janish on Instagram, at Adored Salon, at adored_signature_hand tied_hair. I know it's a lot, but it just is, or the curl tour. So thank you so much for watching today, and I hope to see you again soon.